Oh, here we go. Oh, no, there's no countdown. Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's a board certified emergency medicine osteopathic physician with a dual degree in philosophy. None other than Dr. Dana Cowles. Welcome, welcome.
Morning.
Yes, welcome, Dr. Dana on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Well, thanks for having me. Yes, I'm an emergency room physician. I've worked in the Florida and New York markets most recently, and I've been practicing for about 20 years now.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. So today let's talk about In Pursuit of Happiness, how it can derail a society. Let's connect, or let's start with the center paradox. How did happiness transform from philosophical concept or personal feeling into a modern societal mandate?
Yeah, so originally there was a concept of happiness which was ancient Greek, and it was kind of like the concept of karma. So happiness was just what happened to you. There was good, there was bad, it's what happened. And Socrates, going on to Aristotle, believed that happiness was good things would happen if you lived a virtuous life. Then in the Renaissance time and the Enlightenment period, they actually looked at happiness as a worthy life. And Immanuel Kant was one of the ones that professed that happiness would come with a worthy life. So in our Constitution in the United States, it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness because happiness was living a worthy life. And
Mhm.
then in the 1880s, the whole concept changed because of Sigmund Freud. And he looked at happiness as a euphoric concept that was happiness on tap, on demand. And he used it to treat nervous disorders. And this all came about because in Germany at the time, there was medications that people used for mental health, which were generally downers like thorazine, lithium, alcohol, opiates. And they started experimenting with uppers, which was methamphetamines and cocaine. And Sigmund Freud was a big proponent of cocaine, utilizing it to try to treat nervous disorders and to try to bolster people into this euphoric happiness concept. Marketers afterwards found that happiness itself parts you with your money. So they push you to be happy on tap, on demand all the time. If you buy our product, if you wear our makeup, if you eat our food or drink our drink, you're going to be happy. And in fact, if you look at a watch ad, any watch, whether it be Seiko or Rolex or Citizen Watch, Omega, whichever one's your favorite, the time is usually set to 10:10 because the hands of the watch mimic a smile. And so if I look at people and I ask them, what do you want out of life? A lot of times they'll tell me happiness of some sort. And if you think that there's people overpaid, whether it be celebrities, movie actors, singers, and those kind of things, sports athletes, the reason that they're overpaid the way that they are is because they make you happy. And Disney furthered this concept. Disney actually studied under Freud, and he pushed that happiness itself was a once in a lifetime event, the happily ever after concept. So one event happens, and then you're happy from then on. And he made the parks like Disney World, Disneyland, and every ride ends in a gift shop because if they make you very happy on the ride, you're going to part with your money. And Sigmund Freud's nephew, Bernays, was actually the father of a lot of our marketing in the Western culture. And he pushed this concept a lot. And what people actually need rather than happiness is they need security and affirmation. They need to know that they're a good person, and need to know that things are going to be okay. And if in fact you're in an argument, that means that they're lacking one of the two. They either don't have that security or they don't have the affirmation. And if you correct that part of it, the argument's over almost immediately.
Interesting, Dr. Dana. So you argue the pursuit of happiness can derail a society. Can you define what you mean by the pursuit in this context? Is it prioritization, the definition, or the expectation of happiness that most problematic?
Well, euphoric happiness itself is a temporary emotion, just like sadness or anger, jealousy, any of those kind of things are all temporary emotions. The pursuit of happiness that we've had in our country, especially, is a almost pathologic desire to have it on tap and on demand, and people use it as their main focus. And the problem is that they then don't have what they actually need, which is the security and affirmation. If they're just looking to be happy all the time, then they're missing out on what they actually need in life. And if I ask people what is the opposite of depression, a lot of times they're going to tell me happiness, because that's not marketing again. But the opposite of depression is actually purpose. And purpose is what gets you out of bed. Purpose is what keeps you moving during the day. And if you lack the purpose, that's when real depression is going to sit in. And one of my concerns is that as we push towards AI or automation to be able to fulfill all these jobs and tasks, if people choose comfort or happiness over purpose, we're going to lose a lot of that. And so if you have automation that's taking over every job or every facet of your life, where is the purpose at that point?
Let's talk about the manifestation, Dr. Dana, and mechanisms. Let's talk about the happiness industry. From wellness apps to positive psychology seminars, how has the commodification of happiness created new anxieties and a sense of personal failure when we are not perpetually optimized?
Well, if you're focusing on security and affirmation, you're going to progress a lot farther than if you focus on happiness. So the problem is that the main perspective is incorrect. If people are looking to be happy all the time, and especially this avoidance of negative emotion, right? So if people have anxiety or fear, if they have pain, they're trying to just eliminate it and alleviate it. They do it through medications, drugs, they do it through different mantras or meditation or whatever it is, but they lose the purpose of what those emotions are there for. Like fear and anxiety itself is a sense and an awareness that something is about to change. And it can be used as a tool to focus and make sure that you are being purposeful in your life, so that uh, you can understand what's about to change and actually impact it. But if what we do is we try to ward off that emotion, if we try to escape whatever is uncomfortable, then you're going to end up derailing yourself. And that's when the purpose actually goes away. And people get fixated on that to try to eliminate any uncomfortability in their life. And they will get stuck in a rut of avoidance rather than purposeful movement and development.
Avoidance. Well, so Dr. Dana, how has the relentless pursuit of personal happiness contributed to decline in the civic engagement and communal responsibility? Thus, the focus of well-being inherently complete with our common good.
Well, your common good is developed through the security and affirmation. Those are the two mainstays of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And happiness is not necessarily a component of that. And I'm not saying that happiness is bad. I'm saying that it shouldn't be the primary goal. And so if I ask people, what is your purpose in life? What is your goal? And the answer is, generally speaking, happiness. I want a happy life. I want a happy marriage. I want a happy this and that. You need to make sure that you're focusing more through purpose, and that's going to develop a lot more of your interaction. And with that perspective change, you'll find that your pursuits become a lot more effective.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We like that. Effectiveness. Dr. Dana, so can you walk us through the economic logic of happiness focused society? How does the drive for constant positive consumption interact with issues like debt, sustainability, and meaningful work?
Well, people have focused on happiness itself has been a drive to just part people with their money. So, in trying to be happy all the time, they utilize music, they utilize sports, they utilize entertainment, and those kind of things part you with your money. And if that's been an overall focus, people get lost in it and they actually will become purposeless as a result. So that social engagement there, and people have said that they're upset that there's all these billionaires and overpaid people, but they willingly gave over their money. They provided these people with the money to make them happy. And it's that kind of pursuit that has created a lot of waste in our society, and has created a waste in our interaction as well. So short of going to parties all the time, or doing things like drinking or drug use or whatever to try to bolster happiness and to avoid pain or discomfort, then they utilize electronics, media, social media, or just general, movies or TV, music, those kind of things to try to bolster that sense of happiness all the time. And it becomes like an addiction.
The strong link between happiness mandate and modern parenting. How has the pressure to ensure children are constantly happy, successful, and fulfilled created anxiety for parents and, well, fragility in kids?
Well, it's where it all starts, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, things that I ask people is, what color does Santa Claus wear? And they'll tell me red and white. And up until 1932, it was actually green and brown. Father
No.
Christmas was a different image until Coca-Cola became available. And Coca-Cola was a marketing brand because soda started as a medicine, but they actually used a lot of these uppers, excuse me, from uh, utilizing sugar, caffeine nowadays, but it used to be cocaine, molasses syrup, and alcohol was in it. So they actually used high proof alcohol and wine was in addition to the molasses type syrup and cocaine. When temperance came around, they actually took out the cocaine and the alcohol, but they replaced it with high end sugar, calories, and caffeine. And they rebranded Christmas, where they changed Santa Claus colors to red and white. They fattened him up a little bit and they made him say ho ho ho, that sounds like coke coke coke, right? And so through that marketing, we adjusted Christmas. Historically, that was the time frame where children actually dressed up, went door to door, and received candy, or they actually put their shoe out and they would get a cookie in the shoe. And but people were utilizing the time to get together and drink and party and things like that. And that's why people would say Merry Christmas, because to eat, drink, and be merry is kind of eat, drink, and get drunk. It
Mhm.
wasn't to say happiness. And people wanted to change it to Happy Christmas instead of Merry Christmas. And they debated about that for a long time. And so they changed a holiday where the dressing up and going from door to door went to Halloween. And then they rebranded Christmas to be more of a religious ceremony and try to focus more on the religion. But when Coca Cola started to push people towards happiness, well, happiness, again, it parts you with your money. And so it became very materialistic. And as our society changed to more materialism in this pursuit of happiness, you went from uh, what is it I can teach my child to now the marker is what do I give my child? What do I provide for them? Do you provide your child support? Do you pay for this? Do you pay for that? And when kids go to school, they compare what material goods they have with each other. And that's where that pursuit of happiness has driven us, is more towards a materialistic and marketing standpoint than actual purpose development. So if we went back away from that and didn't even instill that from the young childhood, which, let's be honest, the childhood aspect is when you should be the happiest. You should have euphoric happiness. But the problem is that you don't want to teach it as the primary goal. And in our society, it's not only like the primary goal, but it's the only goal, and people lose their purpose in the process.
Well, thank you for that empowering answer, Dr. Dana. So, what are your short-term and long-term goals as a board-certified emergency medicine osteopathic?
Yeah, well, I've progressed through my career quite a bit. I don't know exactly how much longevity I've got through it. And now I've been focusing more on public speaking and teaching. So I am available to do any public speaking talks. And people can get a hold of me through my website, Coles Emergency Services, if they're inclined to book that kind of thing. I also, I'm going to be starting some teaching classes and things to try to get a little more of this perspective, but also help people in uh, driving their pursuit from a pursuit of happiness towards a pursuit of purpose.
Mm. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to your goals, Mr. Dr. Dana, and looking forward for more success. Hoping for exploring more happiness to the world. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to explore happiness in the world?
Well, if you want to get happiness in this lifetime, I would say my biggest advice would be to make sure that it's not your primary goal. Make sure that security and affirmation are your primary goals, and the happiness will come as a result.
Hmm. Yes. Thank you for that advice, Ms. Dr. Dana. And can you please recommend a book that influenced your journey?
Well, I will tell you that the biggest influence that I've had uh, throughout my throughout my career came from Chris Voss, and his book was Never Split the Difference. And he's
Mm.
a lead crisis negotiator for the FBI. He deals with all of the um, major ransom cases, kidnapping cases, those kind of things. And he's done that for quite a while. And his book on negotiation tactics called Never Split the Difference was actually just a profound career changer for me.
Mm. Thank you for that recommended book. Dr. Dana, so what can we learn from cultures, philosophies, or religious traditions that do not place individual happiness at the center of the good life? What do you prioritize and what is the societal result?
Well, the main party, in my viewpoint, would be the security and affirmation. And if people understand that things are going to be okay and that they're a good person in doing it, they actually develop and progress a lot farther. And one of the factors that's the most important in that is to make sure that the focus is on building, growing, and developing rather than tearing down. So we have a lot of onus in our society through social media, things like that, that amplify a lot of weakness. And that weakness comes in the form of criticism. So people will tell you what they're against, they'll tell you what they don't want out of life. And it comes from a lot of this perspective of what they're trying to avoid. So if you look at it and say, these are the things that make me happy, well, what are the things that make me unhappy? And I want to push and avoid those things away. And so what they do in that process is they try to tear things down instead of building, growing, and developing. So one of the reasons that we have bad politics and bad politicians is because of the amount of criticism that happens. Instead of looking at the positives of every candidate, they look at the negatives and they try to rip them down, tear them up, and destroy them. Well, good people who understand that they want security and affirmation would never run for politics then. Why would you want your name smeared? Why would you want your reputation destroyed? When people are just going to criticize every little thing, they're not worried about what they're in favor of, they're worried about what they're against. And so the good people don't run for it. And the people who already have their dirty laundry exposed, that everything bad about them, you can't destroy them any further. So they're going to be the ones that run for politics. And all of a sudden, we look around and say, why don't we have any good candidates? Well, that's why.
Mhm. Definitely. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, Dr. Dana, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season as well. Comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 our fourth season, science 101, sex 101 in third season, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course my Bible verses 101 are my baby podcast. So listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So Dr. Dana, for a leader, entrepreneur, a policymaker convinced by your argument, what is the concrete provocative step they could take to start collaborating our collective focus?
Well, I think the number one step is movement. It's a lot easier to navigate than to motivate. And so if you find that you're an entrepreneur or you're somebody who's into development and you're stuck because things aren't happening, part of the problem is a lack of movement. And people will plan for a long time. They'll have ideas that they've got out there that they want to achieve, but they don't take that first step to start. And the reason that I say navigation is easier than motivation is because once you take the steps, even if the step is wrong, you can always pivot and adjust it. You can always change it, but you're not going to be able to do anything until you actually start moving. And as we were talking about with the happiness pursuit, people want to avoid the negative. They want to avoid anxiety. They want to avoid fear. They want to avoid pain, right? But the the aspect of anxiety or fear means something in your life is about to change. Pain means something has changed, right? There's nothing that you can do with change in life, even in the good things, that doesn't involve pain, right? You have children, you raise them, you watch them grow, and then even the best thing that you can do is let them go out into the world and do the things that you taught them to do, but it brings you intense pain as you do it, right? You don't go to the gym to be comfortable. As you build and develop, there's going to be pain involved. When you go through school, when you do whatever, there's going to be pain involved. So the avoidance of this pain or the avoidance of uncomfortable feelings will get you to stop, and you don't actually move or do anything. So once you start to move, even if the steps are wrong, you can pivot and navigate, but you want to make sure that you're actually going forward. And there will be anxiety and fear associated with it because your life is about to change on your endeavor. And there will be growing pains as you push forward. Things will actually change in your life, which will cause discomfort. So you don't want to avoid those things. You want to make sure that you go headlong into them and learn how to navigate through them rather than complete avoidance. And that's how you progress forward.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Dana. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom through the world through happiness. Thank you. So can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101 review?
Well, absolutely. If they want to go towards talking to me directly, that's colesemergencyservices.com. And I also have a chapter of a book that's out from Speak to Change, Stories of Triumph and Transformation. And we also have a couple of books that are going to be in progress. So look for those coming out.
Yes, people support Dr. Dana Cowles, because if you support him, for sure, more and more happiness will break those all original form of sadness. happiness, people. So I have one more question, Dr. Dana. Looking to the future, what's the most concerning societal derailment you see accelerating if your current conception of happiness pursuit continues to unchecked?
I think the automation of things is going to become a major ripple in our life, and as we have automation taking away jobs or taking away people's purpose, we're going to really lose a lot of that focus. And I don't think it's insurmountable. I think human beings can find their own purpose above and beyond what they're doing right now. But there's a major portion of contribution that people make into society and into life that is so meaningful. And if they lose that and just focus on comfort itself, our depression rates are going to go through the roof. You know, one of the aspects that I can tell you, just like in COVID, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we made is by saying when we shut down everything that the essential workers would be the ones working. You know, imagine telling 90% of your population that they were not essential. You know, and as a result of that, people lose their purpose and the depression rates increased. You know, the job change or career changes, when they close things down, when they open them back up, people didn't come back to a large degree. You know, restaurants, hospitality still have trouble staffing places because people got told that they weren't essential. You know, and deep down psychologically, that lack of security and affirmation is going to derail people's purpose, which will cause the depression rates to go up.
Mr. or Dr. Dana Cowles, thank you so much for your time.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Welcome, people. See you soon.